Hello, welcome back.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're in 2026 and we're all lucky that we don't write checks anymore because
Well, I had an embarrassing moment, so I took a little break from LinkedIn, which I highly recommend for one's mental health. But I got
nice.
back into it this week, and I've been talking about goal setting all week, and I've been trying to include like a photo with all of my posts because the stupid algorithm likes that. But there's only so many selfies I can post without just wanting to crawl into a hole somewhere and
Which
die.
needing another break from
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
So I did a photo of my new planner that I got that's going to solve all of my life problems. It's
Naturally.
so cute. But as I took the photo of it, I realized I had written on the front, it says like year. There's a place where you write the year in. And I realized I had written 2025 on that. And then also inside where it tells you to write the year. And so I like turned the 5 into a 6, which felt very much like how I used to change my driver's license. In the 90s, I used to change the 73. I used to change the 3 to a 0 or something like that.
Oh,
Um,
love it.
to get
Do
into
not
the
do this at home,
bars.
kids.
It would not work now. But back then, you could
Right.
change your ID with a pencil and some hairspray. But no, so I just turned the little 5 into a 6, and I thought I was so slick about it. And one of the comments from a guy I don't even know, and he said, like, Danielle, you totally wrote 2025 first.
Busted.
Yes, I did, guy I don't know.
That's right. Thank you for first comment ever calling me out. Appreciate you. Come by often, please.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of LinkedIn, you okay if I dive into
Dive in. You're in
what
charge in
what brought
this
us?
week.
Oh, that's dangerous. So I am inspired. I was inspired to pitch this idea to you for today from a recent LinkedIn post discussing really a behind the scenes. I think the person was agency side, might have been brand side, but her reaction to how a big name, in her words, a big name creator dealt with the letter of the law of a contract, and specifically the two red flags for this, the person who posted, were number one, that the creator took down the content the day the contract expired. So if the contract said keep the content up for 3 months, 3 months and one day, that content was removed. In the interim, there was also apparently contractually a non compete around the product, which was
Exclusivity.
dog food exclusivity for 2 weeks after posting. And again, 2 weeks and one day ish, it sounded like,
So
right?
I have so many thoughts. I'm going to let you finish. I just have to add, I hadn't known what the product category was, and dog food changes everything.
Ooh, okay, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Let's get into that. So, on 2 weeks and one day, or something very adjacent to that contractual agreement, the creator posted a sponsored content from a competitor in that
Mm-hmm.
space, which we now know is dog food. So, the nature of the insider sort of view of this was we watched this happen. Yes, this creator adhered to the letter of the law of the contract, but in spirit, we find that to be reprehensible. And so we've blacklisted that creator. Am I too harsh? Does that kind of
That does sum up the post.
sums
Yes.
up the post? So it has, it struck me as, and you can hear in Danielle's voice and in her response too, there's so much that comes up here.
I have
There's
so many.
so,
I
so many
actually,
thoughts.
I don't know if you saw, I pulled out my notebook because I know my brain and I have so many thoughts and they will all be gone in 30 seconds if I don't write them down. So I'm jotting notes.
Right, right. Because this is a rich topic. And so I want to start with the concept of, and talk with you about this, that the contract is the second place, like the creator brief, to share the concrete deliverables, expectations, but it is a tool, not a trap. And I feel in this case, the way it was talked about in the post, really it was setting this creator up to end up on the blacklist,
Yeah.
because the expectation wasn't, hey, exclusivity for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because the minute you put that in there, you're going to find out a lot about whether creators, the rate is enough for what you're expecting. So it's sort of like the brand here is trying to double dip. Like they're trying to be cognizant of 2 weeks is fine for exclusivity. But if you don't honor this shadow unwritten rule,
Yeah.
then you're out. And I think that's duplicitous on the brand side.
I
But
agree. I
yeah,
agree. This just kind of brings up a bigger point, which is something I jumped into commenting this morning on something. It was a guy talking about how he used to only pay, and just give me a minute, I'm going to get back to how this is relevant. He used to only pay influencers based on performance. He has seen the error of his ways. He now believes that there should be some kind of flat fee. His reasoning, though, was that we don't do attribution well. And because influencers aren't always the last click before a purchase, but they might have been the first time someone saw it or the second time someone saw it, until there's a way to measure that relationship with purchase, we can't do commission based payments, and there has to be a flat
right.
fee. And
Yeah.
my response to that is, glad you got to flat fee, but there's still like a massive issue with your reasoning here. I cannot understand this insistence that everything influencers do has to be tied to conversion. Totally different issue than what you brought up. The reason I bring it up is because it's this broader issue that influencers and influencer marketing is held to a different standard than any other form of media out there. And it could be that this person has now dog food's tricky. The reason I like my ears, eyes, whatever perked up when you said dog food is that we know, as people who have had dogs, you can't just switch food willy-nilly or you're going to have a disaster on your hands and a lot of stomach problems for said dog. There's
Right.
like a 2 to 3 week transition period of moving into a new food. So dog food happens to be one of those categories where there probably should be some kind of loyalty there and relationship, and you're not going to be promoting a different dog food and switching your dog's food over every single month, or that poor dog is going to be feeling very poorly. We don't know a lot here. This site, it could be a resource site for people where they're not even talking about their own dog at all. It could just be like pettips.com, or
Right. Here's what I
probably
like
not that.
about this brand. Here's what I
Right.
like about
There's
this
so many
ingredient
things
label.
there. But like, to your point that the contract in this case was kind of like a trap here, why are influencers being held to a different standard? Like, we don't, when, like, look at television, for example. If someone, Jennifer Aniston did hair product stuff and now she has her own hair product, and what if she stops doing that and switches to something else? No one's blacklisting her or saying this is like a travesty. I just don't understand why it seems like in every single area of the business, influencers are held to this
Right.
different standard.
And
And
that's so interesting because you're bringing up, there's the spokesperson and then there's the channel. And so what I would encounter to that argument say, yes, but the TV station will not air a Pantene commercial next to a Lola V or whatever her brand is, next to a Prel, boy, I'm dating myself, or whatever the next hair care product
but
is.
they kind of do. Like, I watch, we have so much football on in my house, and you see one car commercial, another car commercial, another car commercial. We joke in our house, like with the pharmaceutical ads, like if we have to hear one more ad for wet AMD, which I don't even know what it is.
Right. I know enough to be dangerous about the back end of television advertising. It may no longer be the case, but often those advertisers will have contracts that they get a make good if they're
If
bookended
they
next to each
end.
other.
Yeah.
So it might be that inventory is such that, like, we have a 30-second timeout in the game and we have to fit these number in. but the salesperson will say, we'll also put you at the 11 o'clock news to make up for the fact that we were.
Yeah.
But the point being, there's the person and then there's the channel. And we also conflate those two things with influencers, and I want to actually, without going down that road, I want to use your example to say a contract, part of the argument in this person's reasoning was this behavior, this brand infidelity or category product infidelity will hurt her. It makes her look untrustworthy. That's the creator's problem.
That's the
That's
creator's
her.
problem.
And if
It
you didn't
also
like her,
depends. It also
oh,
depends.
sure.
Like I said, if one thing was talking about the dog food and then the competitor was talking about a topper or a treat that you could use at the same time, it doesn't hurt
Right.
anything.
One is
If
for
she's
skin health,
posting,
one cleans the teeth, one, yes,
right.
absolutely.
And I've talked about this before, like years ago when I was still at Edelman. There was a mom-focused influencer marketing agency that shall not be named that I used to get into it with all the time because they insisted on paying only in gift cards. And color me crazy, I think that everyone, including women, should be paid with actual money when they do actual work. And so, like, that's when I first had my issue with them. And then I got into another beef with them online because they did a program for Hunt's high fructose corn syrup free ketchup. And
Okay.
they gave all these women gift cards to talk about the ketchup. And then a week later, they used 80% of the same people to do a program promoting the corn syrup industry and like
Stop
corn
it.
farmers of America.
Stop it.
So that's an issue. Like if
Yeah.
you're saying, I love this ketchup because it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup and that is so amazing and it's better for my family. And then a week later you say high fructose corn syrup is amazing. It's not
And
harmful at
fun.
all. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a
Yeah.
problem. But to your point, like stupid that this agency hired the same people because that just makes them look like they're not good at doing their jobs. But ultimately, you're right. It is the influencers' problem, and that does erode the trust.
So, 2 points about that. Number one, in the comment section, there was a lot of advocacy for this is why we need long term influencer partnerships. No, actually, those things are not correlated at all. You and I have talked in depth about long term partnerships. Sound good. They don't really accomplish what you think they will. But I would also say, so I'm going to reference the Oprah Winfrey show. So years ago, when she actually had the big show going in syndication, she had a safety expert on, like somebody who would teach self-defense, somebody who was like, never let them move you to a second location, right? That scary shit. And the question came up because the new technology was the nanny cam. So the stuffed bear that you put on the shelf with the nanny cam to monitor what's going on. Should we use them? Should we not? And the guy said, if you think your child is in danger, fire that person immediately. Do not wait for evidence that they're being abused, mistreated. Like, just trust your gut and get out.
Yeah.
That also bears acknowledgement in this scenario because this creator was a bad actor, apparently, in other ways. So, not communicative, hard to deal with,
Right.
all these things you can't use a contract to manage vibes. Like you can manage concrete deliverables, timetables, get clarity on what you expect. But if somebody's vibe is not working for your brand, or you could have somebody imagine this scenario, and I think it's happened to you and it's happened to us, great fit, great content, great engagement rate, but through the entirety of the program, this person never emails you back, never confirms anything. They hit their marks, everything's fine, but you're left with so much agita or angst, or your team is. That's not a good vibe either.
After we finish a program, we go in and we make notes on the influencers in our system for ourselves to check back on. And there's 3 categories. It's almost, I always think of it as like a Yelp review where you have like atmosphere, food, service. And we have 3 categories, and it's quality of content, performance of content, and professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
And
That last bucket is huge.
it's huge. And sometimes their quality of content is amazing and it performs well. And we talked about this in our last episode. You have all the time in the world. And so if it, you know what, you're going to bite the bullet and deal with someone who's less than professional because it's going to be worth it at the end of the day to have that content. But if you're doing something that's quick turn or a sensitive client or whatever else it might be, you're going to say, you know what, I need what
All
I'm looking
three.
at in terms of like these rate, you need all three, but that professionalism kind of rises to the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So that's again a place I don't think the contract, if you're getting red flags, that it's about maturity and experience in this industry when negotiating contracts and onboarding, recruiting influencers to know how to address that piece and
Yeah.
not to then use the contract as a trap or as a reason. Like, just trust yourself. You don't have to work with
Well,
everybody.
and getting back to the point I made about holding influencers to a higher standard, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm not spending a lot of time talking about that woman's other point from her LinkedIn post about them pulling down the content after 3 months. You paid for that real estate for 3 months.
Right.
In what world does it make sense for someone? I mean, if they don't care and they want to have it up, then great, that's bonus. But it's certainly not something that they should be dinged for adhering to. The contract said 3 months. You paid for that real estate for 3 months. Anything longer than that, you're an interloper.
And yes, I totally agree. And it comes across that it was being watched so closely for the misstep, for
Yeah.
the excuse, which then I think, okay, there's some education here about how to create good relationships with influencers. And this is part of it. How are you nurturing them? How are you understanding their POV? And I would also say, and I've said this before, a successful influencer campaign isn't just about that end KPI, reach, impressions, engagement. You are learning so much along the way about what a good influencer for you is, but you need to take the hit and grow from that place. So, this influencer, I think we would all like the influencer who's like, I'm so aligned with this product that even though I might use other products or have competitive because I'm highlighting different qualities,
Yeah.
this works for me. Like, this looks good for me. It's a, like a notch in my belt, so to speak, or it elevates my profile, so I'm going to keep it up there. If you don't get that, then probably again your recruiting and vetting is off.
That's what I was going to say. Like, all this points to me that this agency is not very good. Or was it the brand? I don't know which
I don't
one.
Right, I think
Oh,
agency.
the agency's not good. I mean, first of all, we would never have only 3 months that the content has to be live. I don't think a year is typical for us. If we have an influencer come back and ask for it to be less, that's something we will negotiate on a one-off basis,
With
not
all
hap
those other variables you
not
talked about.
happily. And we
Yeah.
might say, you know what, it's not worth it to us to
Yep.
work on this.
Yeah.
But for us, a year is standard. Like, I just think there's a lot of red flags here. And I'm sure this is not what the woman intended when she posted it on LinkedIn. But I think that post raises a lot of red flags about how that agency does
Yes.
business.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, this is more of a channel algorithm point. We have seen the shift in how, let's talk about, say, Instagram. Instagram used to be a place where we followed our favorite people and their content was fed to us because we followed them. That is no longer the case. So
No.
this is the For You page algorithm. This is the content is more often shown not to your audience. So everybody who's upset that if I followed her and I saw these two things back to back, guess what? You probably won't. Like, the algorithm is not for you. It's
Right.
for the people who don't know her or who are dog owners, or like whatever
And then, I
like
mean,
pets.
getting back to another point about the algorithm, and this is a point for making sure that that content lives on there longer than 3 months. Now that Instagram is crawled by LLMs and is showing up in AI searches, having that content live online for only 3 months is doing a huge disservice to that brand. I had a great sales meeting yesterday with an inbound that came through to our website. He found us through Perplexity, who found us through a blog post that we put up in 2021.
Right. Wow. That's great.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
mean, that's a blog post. It's not an Instagram, but those Perplexity, ChatGPT, they're all using that same type of modeling, and to those models, a blog post, an Instagram post, all of it's the same thing. It's all kind of feeding that monster and generating that knowledge base. And if for something to live online for only 3 months is silly.
Right. And it's feedback. My guess is, or not my guess is, there's a good possibility that they had a year or 6 months in the contract. And this creator, being a big creator, was pushed back and said 3. At that moment, you decide, okay, do we have the budget to go to 6 or 12? Or do we let our crush on this big creator weigh in? We like what she does. She's got, all those things that give you starry eyes about working with somebody. But you can't then, and I'm not accusing the poster of this, I'm just saying in general, then you can't go back and say, she took the content down. And
No,
how,
it's and
like, you had all the signs there
this stuff
that it
happens
wasn't
all
going to
the
be good.
time. We're putting together. We have a client we're working with now. It's a new client to us, and um, for them, it's important to do an ambassador program. They like to have a year-long relationship and have their creators cover different events, different products. It's very important to them, and so they select all of their creators at the beginning of the year. It's a game of Tetris, right? Like, you have a set budget, and they ideally want to work with 6 to 8 creators, and they ideally want each creator to do 6 to 8 posts, and you're kind of mixing and matching and seeing what you can do and how can you make this all work together. They had this initial list of people they wanted to bring back from last year. We put them into the mix initially. We found some new people. We showed it all to them. Turns out 2 of the people from last year were being very disagreeable, were refusing to work for, like, the price to work with them for a full year was so much more money than doing 6 months. So we said, here's the deal. Like, if you want this many pieces of content, this many creators, you can work with these 2 people who you really liked for 6 months each, and everyone else is a year. Or, hey, guess what? We can get rid of these 2 people who are suddenly playing hardball with us, and you get
Right.
so much more content. And, sometimes you have to just let go of, and that's, this client happens to be very reasonable and smart and agreed with our strategic recommendation, but
But it is
like, you have to make
calculus.
hard choices. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
ever changing. It's in the moment. It's what are we weighing as most important? When does that professionalism rise to the top of being the most important? And yeah, so I think we're in agreement that the agent, if this was an agency, which I do believe it was,
I
I
felt
may
like I
be,
read it as agency. I
yeah,
don't know why though.
that they likely need more experience with this kind of contracting. They need to look at it as an opportunity to learn, and that they're getting a lot of data back. And they're, again, and she got this feedback, they're holding the influencer here to a standard that even brands and agencies don't hold themselves to when they hire. There's no repeat business for that creator. They're hiring new people every time, your new client notwithstanding. It doesn't have to be this fraught, I don't think, or this angry.
No.
And a contract is a good place to learn how to develop relationships and learn from your influencers and creators
Hmm.
versus just blaming them for not doing the heavy lifting that the brand or agency in this case wasn't willing to do.
Yeah.
And it's a good
Agree.
lesson for brand folks who are listening, in-house internal brand folks. There is a difference between agencies. We're not all the same. Experience matters. These nuances reflect on your brand as much as the KPIs that you might get, or the low cost of working with one agency over the other. So good discussion.
Okay. Well, first conversation of 2026, and we still have not found something that we disagree on.
It was a banger. That was a good one. I
That was fun.
love that. you lit up as much as I did with, oh, the nuances in here. And oh,
Yeah.
it's so interesting and granular and dynamic and ever changing. And, the contract is not a throwaway. It's not a set it and forget it
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that. Nice
Okay.
talking to you.
Well, till next week.
See you next week.
Bye.